Good morning, Abik. Sorry, good morning. I'm saying good evening, Abik. Good evening, Faiz. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yeah, good evening. I am Faiz.
Yes, Faiz. Good evening. Yes. So we will start. What I'm doing is I'm also recording this class because there are only four of us. In fact, uh, one of the participant has so far not joined, so we don't really know whether they are going to join or not. But yes, so we will start. All right. We will start with the
Okay.
hands-on data. We will first look at the presentation. This might not go for more than 10 minutes. It's a very brief one and very crisp and clear one. Uh, okay. So the question that we are discussing today is: are we using NDVI right? NDVI stands for Normalized Difference Vegetation Index. This particular index helps us in identifying those regions which are covered by vegetation, and when we use these particular indices, that is NDVI, with yet other indices like urban build-up index or moisture index or water index, then it helps us in also classifying different types of vegetation. Now, because NDVI or vegetation is very closely related to every aspect of environment and also with socio-economic aspects, NDVI becomes a very important tool that literally everybody ends up using, whoever is working in earth sciences, life sciences, environmental sciences, also chemical sciences, physical sciences, and many different disciplines. It might also take you by surprise that NDVI is also being used by economists to find out those regions which have improved in terms of their economic strength. Right? So now, so we are trying today, we are discussing NDVI, whether we are using it correctly or not, and we are understanding what are the pitfalls of using NDVI, what are the drawbacks, what are the things that we have to be slightly cautious about whenever we are using NDVI, what could go wrong possibly, and also surprisingly, and which are the different alternatives that are available so far in the scientific domain besides NDVI, which we are very strictly using for vegetation analysis without any background in field analysis or field data, field observations, or also in any collecting any samples. We are not doing all these things. We are directly going for NDVI and blindly trusting on NDVI data. These are the things that happen, and this is what we are going to discuss today. So before we dwell into what are the pitfalls, what are the alternatives, how NDVI is better than others, and how others will overpower NDVI, we will first look into what is NDVI. So this NDVI stands for normalized difference. That means we are normalizing the difference between two different bands that are able to identify vegetation by some or the other aspect. Okay, so normalized difference vegetation index stands for the full form of NDVI. It is one of the most widely used indices. That means there are other indices as well which monitor vegetation. Not just vegetation, it also monitors the health of the vegetation, the growth stage of the vegetation, the density of the vegetation, and whether there is any disease that is that a particular vegetation has got. So all these aspects we are using for finding out all these aspects, monitoring and also modeling. We are using NDVI because why we are using NDVI so widely is because NDVI can does not require any field survey also. All that we require is some multispectral data that has essentially these two bands, that is these two sensors which are mounted on the satellite, and the region is getting picturized, that is near infrared and red. So whichever satellite data that is multispectral and has these two bands, that is near infrared and red, then we will be able to use those satellite imageries in order to calculate NDVI, which means we have a wider and temporal region that also we can study, and there is also repetitivity. At very repetitive 16 days or 8 days of interval, we are able to um, revisit the same place, identify how the NDVI has changed, and then hence be able to monitor them. So here the formula for NDVI is near infrared minus red divided by near infrared plus red, which means that if near infrared value is higher, we will talk about what is that range also a little later. If uh, NDVI values are higher, that means vegetation is available. If NDVI values are lower, that means the vegetation is not available. The near infrared is very strongly reflected by healthy or chlorophyll containing vegetation. Remember that near infrared is reflected, nothing is absorbed, because near infrared has absolutely no usage in producing green pigment, that is chlorophyll, whereas red is necessary. So wherever there is healthy vegetation, and if you make this near infrared and red incident upon this healthy vegetation or chlorophyll containing green vegetation, then near infrared will be reflected and red will be absorbed relatively. Okay, but the moment this tree or this particular vegetation starts dying or maybe withering, what happens is that that green leaf you must have seen turns into initially yellow, and then orange, and then red, and then gray, and then goes decays, right? So the color change indicates that as the vegetation loses its chlorophyll content, red is reflected. That is why it is perceived by our eyes, and the vegetation or that leaf appears red to us. Whereas near infrared starts getting absorbed. So when the vegetation is healthy, near infrared is reflected, red is absorbed, and when it withers down or when it dies, what happens is that near infrared is absorbed and red is reflected. That is how red color is perceived by our eyes, and vegetation appears red. If one of our friend is wearing red color, that means their apparel is not absorbing red, it is reflecting. That is why that red is perceived by our eyes, and we see that the t-shirt is red, and so on. Okay, now NIR means near infrared, red means red reflectance. Let's move ahead. Why is NDVI popular? Because it is very simple to be calculated. All that we require is near infrared and red bands, and it is a mathematical operation. It is very, very simple to be calculated. It also works with most of the satellite sensors. You take Landsat, it works. You take Sentinel, it works. You take MODIS, it works. You take LIS4 data, it works. You take LIS3, it works. There are many different types of multispectral data, multispectral satellite imageries with which this NDVI will definitely work. That is why it is very, very popular. It is also effective for broad scale vegetation monitoring. That means because the satellite image covers a huge area, we are also able to monitor vegetation on a very long scale, because there is repetitive data acquisition that is done, and then we can, because it is again simple to calculate, now we can quickly do it. Now this NDVI is also seen through literature, through experimentation. We have also seen that this NDVI, that is normalized difference vegetation index, it correlates very well with biomass. If the amount of biomass is increasing, NDVI values are also improving. If biomass is reducing, that means there is some regradation. That also means that NDVI values will also reduce. And it also shows good correlation with that of leaf area index. In many environments, in almost all the environments, whether you take it to be neritic, or if you take it to be aquatic, you take it to be terrestrial, you take it to be semi-arid or arid, or tropical, everywhere, in every kind of environment, you will see that the NDVI values are correlated very well with the biomass and the leaf area index. Now, it also represents chlorophyll density. Not just chlorophyll density, in fact, NDVI is a cumulative value. It doesn't really talk only about chlorophyll density or only about growth stage of the vegetation, only about the health of the vegetation or the density of the vegetation. It talks cumulative about all these factors. It talks about how healthy the vegetation is or whether there is some disease. It talks about in what growth stage it is, whether it is a matured vegetation or a very young vegetation, or it is dying old age vegetation, or what is the chlorophyll density. Every vegetation species has a different chlorophyll density, which means we are also to some extent, remember that to some extent we are able to differentiate between um, different types of vegetation, because all of them have different chlorophyll density, and then again this chlorophyll density is very well correlated with NDVI. So many good benefits are there of this NDVI, that is why we use it. It is also used to classify vegetation density, that is whether it is a scanty vegetation or it is dense vegetation, or whether it is moderately dense vegetation, scrubland, shrublands, and so on, cropland. Different types of vegetation can also be classified. If you see that in a particular region, NDVI values are ranging in a very small, fraction, that is in a small, very narrow range, then we know that the diversity of vegetation is minimal over there. So wherever you see that the density of that the values of this NDVI differ by a larger range, that means higher biodiversity. And so higher diversity. Sorry, I'm not really relating to biodiversity. Okay, diversity among the vegetation. Have you understood this, or am I too fast?
It's okay for me.
Okay, Abik, what do you? Okay, all right. I couldn't hear a bit. All right. So coming into the pitfalls now, so many benefits, right? And everything seems just right and perfect to use NDVI. Then comes this question. So what are the pitfalls of using NDVI then? This NDVI saturates in dense vegetation. Example, tropical forest will show you very high and very ideal plus one kind of positive one, that is the highest NDVI value it will show. Okay, before coming here, I will tell you that NDVI values will always range between -1 and +1. Anything about zero is a positive, and the positive NDVI value always indicates vegetation, whereas negative NDVI values, we know that it is not vegetation, but we don't really know what exactly it is. It could be any such ground feature which doesn't have any chlorophyll content, for example water bodies, or very minimal vegetation content, because water bodies also have some chlorophyll content, no. So these water bodies, built up areas, or if there is a barren land, rock outcrops, sand, all these kind of deposits will not show positive NDVI values. Only the vegetation laden areas will show positive NDVI values, that is above zero, and the range itself is between -1 to +1. Okay, now NDVI, always you will see that the NDVI values show the highest values in dense vegetation, like that of tropical vegetation, thick lush green vegetations which are away from anthropogenic activities or interaction with humans. Then those regions will show very high NDVI values within that -1 to +1 range. Okay, whereas when it comes to any other vegetation other than dense vegetation, if it is not there in your area, then it means what? It will show lower NDVI values. So this is one pitfall. Because we are not able to really find out which is the healthiest vegetation. We might say that +1 is the best vegetation, healthiest vegetation, densest vegetation, but we might not always have such a vegetation in our region. So that ideal one is never really attained, which means relative in the relative sense, we are not able to correlate our region NDVI values with that of the global scale values. Okay. Now, coming to this next pitfall, sensitive to soil background, depends upon the kind of soil within which this vegetation is. Think of scanty vegetation wherein you are also picking some information within the red band from these bare soil. So bare soil, it appears red to us, isn't it? Because of the iron oxide content. Let's say there is a scanty vegetation where partly the red reflectance is coming from the soil. So we will end up thinking that this vegetation is poor in health, or it is diseased or something like that. But that is not the reality. The reality is what? There is some background soil which is also giving out red um, reflectance. You see that red is also important, no? So that is why this is also becomes a pitfall. And also atmospheric conditions also punch in, because we are never correcting any of the satellite data up to the very highest level of atmospheric correction is never attained unless and until we make efforts in finding out what is the actual atmospheric concentration, its chemical concentration very specifically, and what is the optical depth, and so on and so forth. So comes into picture the sun angle and everything. If we know that particular every value, and only then we are able to perform atmospheric correction to the perfection, but then not always. So because of that also some sensitivity comes in. Now these NDVI values are also affected by the sensor calibration. So if the sensor is not very well calibrated, it is on a paper it is said that, let's say the red sensor is sensitive to maybe 430 to 440. Okay, no, sorry, 730 to, let's say 730 to, let's say 740 on paper. But the sensor with the time, what happens, it faces a bandwidth drift, because of which what is going to happen, the spectrum, narrow bandwidth spectrum within which it captures the reflectance coming from a particular region, that will also get affected. So those illumination differences are also coming into picture. That sensitivity of the sensor is also coming into picture, which limits the idealness of this NDVI. As we saw earlier, NDVI felt just very ideal. Now, it is not always ideal for drylands or sparsely vegetated areas. Those regions which are very well covered by green vegetations, we can use it, NDVI, without any second thought, like tropical regions or tropical region, essentially wherever there is adequate amount of precipitation of or water available. These are the places where we can use NDVI with a little more confidence. But when it comes to dry lands, maybe scrublands or shrublands which go dry during the dry spell or during the summer, then these are the places where we will be a little doubtful about using NDVI, because there is vegetation over there, but then what it does, it might have shed during that particular region, during that particular climatic season, that is dry spell, because of which we will be shown that there is absolutely no vegetation. For example, think of winter, when many of the tropical trees are shedding their leaves. So what we will be shown that there is absolutely no vegetation over there. You're following me? So these are the pitfalls. Are you following this?
Yes, yes.
Okay, just give me a thumbs up if you are understanding it, if my flow is fine, if
Yes, yes,
everything is just
yes.
fine. Yes, yes, Pais, you want to say something? Or
It's okay.
okay, all right. Okay, so and at any point of time, if you have any question, just unmute yourself and ask, or you can also drop me a question, and then we are good to go for that discussion. Okay, what are the common misuses of NDVI? Applying NDVI thresholds universally across regions. So there is this one exercise that we always perform whenever I am taking up any of the classes. NDVI is always a common factor in all the classes, wherein I always ask everybody to find out the threshold of NDVI for each spectrum, for each scene. Threshold, by threshold, it means that theoretically zero is the threshold for NDVI. Anything above zero Anything above zero is vegetation. Anything below zero is all non-vegetated land. Correct, no? But then, in reality, for each scene, this threshold need not be zero. What happens is that if you give zero NDVI value as a threshold, often you end up bringing some barren land into your vegetated land, or some vegetated land you put them into barren land. This is what happens. Okay, either of these case happens. Okay, now because of this, we have to independently find out for each scene. We have to find out what is the threshold of NDVI, which is essentially done by taking a natural break along all the histogram pyramids. Now, we also ignore this seasonal variability. Let's say if we are studying an image that was we are just talking about the west coast of India, which receives precipitation from the month of June. In fact, almost the onset of monsoon, if we are to talk about mid of May, ever since mid of May until November mid, right? So it's a huge period wherein there is precipitation received along the west coast of India. Now here what happens is that you have two seasons. That is, one you have post monsoon season, you have pre monsoon season. During post monsoon season, you will see vegetation even in those regions where usually you won't see vegetation during dry spell or peak of summer, during the maybe first half of May, where you won't see any vegetation. You will see vegetation in those places during the post monsoon, that is maybe November, December, in that time period. So you have to not ignore the seasonal variability. Let's say if you are studying the vegetation cover for a particular region over one decade, then you have to ensure that you are limiting your data for a particular season. If you want to use post monsoon, go for using post monsoon. If you want to use pre monsoon, go for using pre monsoon. But many studies will show you that they have compared NDVI, or they have tried to figure out how the NDVI values change. But a temporal or the seasonal variability is not considered. Then as well, NDVI is misused. Next, not validating with ground truth. Like we said earlier, no, we feel absolutely no requirement to go out in the field and look out for what is the condition, whether wherever we are finding positive NDVI values, do they really have any vegetation on ground? We make absolutely no attempt. That is what has been seen through many studies, or many workers have already done that. Okay, so this is also another misuse. Now, using it alone without supporting indices or context. So whenever we use only NDVI to make our deductions, then also it is wrong. We have to compare our NDVI with yet other vegetation indices, or at least with maybe built up index, or with water index, or maybe moisture stress index, or burn index, and so on and so forth. So all these we need to do. Topographic wetness index, we have to compare it, and only then we are in a position to better do justification to whatever we are intending to do. Now, what are the better alternatives other than that of NDVI, or they may also complement NDVI? In many cases, I would rather say that it always complements NDVI. They might not be the better alternatives in every case scenario, but they always complement NDVI. These indices are EVI, Enhanced Vegetation Index. It is used for better, it is used for specifically those areas which have a very high biomass content. So wherever there is high biomass, maybe tropical regions, or wetlands, and things like this, where there is high biomass, then here we can use Enhanced Vegetation Index. Besides this, those regions which have scanty vegetation, maybe like a plateau land vegetation, or a residual hill region, or a semi-arid region, in those regions we can use this index that is called SAVI, or soil adjusted vegetation index. Here what happens is that whatever effect that comes into picture due to bare soil, no, into the background of this vegetation, that is minimized. And then comes moisture index, that is normalized difference moisture index. Only moisture index is written, it is in fact normalized difference moisture index. Okay, so when we compare moisture index with these NDVI values, we are in a position to find out which is that vegetation which has a higher moisture content. For example, mangroves you think of, they have a higher moisture content as compared to those vegetation that are on a plateau region. For example, cashew trees have lower moisture content. If you can remember, maybe crushing specific trees, sorry, specific leaves, they have a higher moisture content, and yet others have very low moisture content. For example, what is the example that I can give you? Uh, okay, if you think of a
Yeah.
mango tree, compare mango tree with that of mangrove grass or any phreatic kind of vegetation, you will see that the moisture content is more wherever there is saturated kind of environment, maybe wetland or waterlogged kind of region. Okay, then comes this WARI, that means visible atmospherically resistant index. Now this uses only the visible bands. Now I don't really know much about this particular index, but this is something that I have very recently come across. Not many publications you will find on this, and I personally don't really have a lot to say about VARI also. Visible atmospherically resistance index. I couldn't find a lot of literature on this, but this is something that is surfacing in many of the publications very recently. All of them help us in identifying vegetation. Now, using multiple indices together will provide us better insights into what kind of vegetation it is, and their health, their density, their growth state, whether they are into some distress or not, pertaining to some maybe some disease is there or something like that. Now, enhanced vegetation index, this is the formula. Gain factor is usually taken as 2.5. Near infrared and red, you already know. C1 and C2, you can find it into the metadata of every satellite file or satellite data, or you can use it to be between 6 and 7.5. Okay, so if you are using a region which is essentially, lesser of biomass is there, and then you can use this 6, whereas if you have a higher biomass you can go for 7.5. It's all something that the worker is going to decide. Now, L is canopy background adjustment. Usually it is 1. That is the formula for EVI. It is same as doing NDVI, only that it is slightly elaborate and nothing difficult in this. Then comes the soil adjusted vegetation index. This uses the same bands as that of NDVI, so you need not look out for another satellite data as well. You will see that here also it is NIR and red, so you need not look for another satellite imagery. For the same one as well, you will be able to use. Soil adjusted vegetation index is something that we are essentially using for those regions which have scanty vegetation or that bare soil is peeping out of this vegetation. Okay, so this is called SAVI, and here you have one more factor that needs to be used, and then again it is predefined. Typically it is used as 0.5. It is L means soil brightness correction factor, which is typically used to be zero point 0.5. Nothing else changes. Okay, and then normalized difference moisture index. This is to find out what is the concentration of water within a given plant species or within the chlorophyll. That is called NDMI, normalized difference moisture index. Here you already have NIR. You also have to have a shortwave infrared band Landsat 8 is very ideal because Landsat 8 has shortwave infrared 1 and shortwave infrared 2. So you have one shortwave infrared and slightly relatively a longer infrared is also there. So you can compare this with near infrared shortwave infrared 1 and also with shortwave infrared 2 and see which one is giving you better results. And this helps us in identifying the water saturation within a given species. Moving on to the next one, visible atmospherically resistant index. This is also pretty straightforward. You are using all, that is green and red, as green, red, as well as blue. All of them are within the Vidyar. Near infrared is not used. Okay. Yes. So then that's the end of it. We will take any questions.
Hello.
This is your time, very. Yeah. Yes. Yes, guys.
Yes. I wanted to know that how to assess the vegetation for wetlands and the surrounding or periphery shoreline area. You said we can use EVI for that.
Yes. Yes.
So
So
how to work out?
EVI will, yes, how to work it out. All that we need to have is this near infrared band and a red band. So whenever we download any satellite imageries, we will have multiple bands within which we have to identify which is the near infrared band and which is the red band, and then we go for a mathematical operation. Here the only values that are added over here is C1, C2 and then L. There is G also over here, that is a gain factor. Gain factor is usually set to 2.5 and C1, C2 is again 6 and 7.5. So you have to choose between these two values. You can choose C1 and C2. So let's say C1 if you chose to be 6, then let's say 7, and then C2 you can choose to be 7.5. So within that range you can select. Okay. And then L, canopy background adjustment, that is also set to be 1, usually 1. Unless and until you find some literature which is also studying similar region as that of you, and they have used this EVI. Many literature you will see that EVI is being used along with NDVI, and you can see which are the values that they are using for this G, C1, C2 and L, and accordingly you can select yours, or you can just use theirs itself, their value itself, and compare your study area with theirs.
Okay. Do you have any idea how to pull out vegetation index or growth for submerged plants which are not exposed outside the water, but they are
Yeah,
present?
yeah, I got it. Yes, some aquatic species that are
Like
rooted into
Melisneria,
the,
yeah, and
yeah,
Melisneria
rooted
are
into
there,
the,
algae are there, Nitella. They are all plant-like structures submerged in the soil
yes,
under the in the
yeah.
benthos region. So how to
I
assess?
would, what I will suggest you is that you can find out what is the boundary of this region. Let's say if you are studying a lake, you can find out what is the boundary of this particular lake, and subset your area such that what happens is that anything that lies outside this lake is not, let's say, of your concern. So you want to eliminate them and you will study only that particular region that lies within your lake. Now, when it comes to lake, and we are also talking about rooted species, not only phytoplanktons, including phytoplanktons rather, then in relative sense, we can discuss how the vegetation concentration varies within a lake. But then the problem that it shows is also the bathymetry is going to change of the entire lake all throughout. Maybe somewhere in the center it is going to be deeper, where essentially the green rays and the blue rays and the red rays do not reach, right? So this is where you will face difficulty in terms of quantifying exactly how much chlorophyll content is there. But in relative sense, if you make concentrated buffers around if you have bathymetric contours of the lake, then you can make multiple buffers of this lake, and within each buffer you can study the relative concentration of biomass. Could I answer you? Did I make any sense to you?
Yeah, got it.
Yes. So, for example, no. Okay. So for example, let's say there is this lake. Okay, there is this lake. Now within this lake, at the very center of it, you have higher higher depth, right? So what we can do? We can do contour. So let's say this is 5 meter depth contour. This is 10 meter depth contour. This is let's say 15-meter depth contour. So what do? We make buffer one, okay, and study biomass here. We make buffer 2, study biomass over here, make buffer 3, study biomass here, and it is all being done in relative sense, okay, because we won't be able to study this along with this and this with relation to this, because as we go deeper into the lake, again the biomass content is going to reduce. But then if you want to quantify, then it is pretty difficult
Okay.
unless and until we have some
Can we get the contour data, or we have to perform the bathymetric study?
yes, we will have to perform the bathymetric study unless and
Okay.
until the wetland is has been declared to be.
Okay.
I'm forgetting.
Any having
Yes,
any
yeah. So
data in Ramsar and websites and
yes,
all.
yes. If
Okay.
it has
So
some data already on bathymetry,
yeah.
then we can. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Thank
we
you.
will have to do this. Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So let's move on to a very small and very nice exercise. I have already shared this particular link with you. What you have to do is you have to open Google Earth Engine, make a new project, and add your details, and just open this link such that you can save it as well. You can go for saving it, or just go here and then save as and then save it. I have saved it as vegetation degradation. What we are using is Google Earth Engine. You can just come over here, open that particular link, and we are doing this exercise essentially for Wayanad. I was initially planning that we will do it for a very long period, that is from 2000 all the way to 2015. But then today, what we are going to do is we will study it from 2013 to 2025, because we don't have a huge manpower. I somehow forgot to share this widely and repeatedly so that people will come and join it. So we are only four. So what we will do is we can choose this start year and end year, and again the start year and end year, because we are essentially giving two different time periods, that is this is 2015 one. It's definitely taking the mean of this entire year and mean of this entire year. But then now that I look at it, I don't want to do it this way. So what I will do is I will take 2013, okay, 2013 January 1st to 2013.
I just need a help, miss. There
Yes.
are two options for me. It is showing I want to register a new project. I am
Yeah.
the another is I am authorized for an existing cloud project. So
We
which one
want to use
which
a new. You say that you want to use a new project, make
new
a new
project?
project.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Let me know once it is open. Then we can go ahead decide. So I am choosing
Okay.
January of 2013, and I am choosing 2013. Then I will go for 2016. Okay, 2016 again January 1st, and 2016 again January 31st. Okay, so just 1 month and 1 month. So we are comparing January of 2000. I am comparing January of 2013 to January of 2016. Somebody can do for January 2016 to January 2020, and yet other can do for January 20. Sorry. January 2020 to January 2025. So January 2013 to January 2016, January 2016 to January 2020, and then January 2020 to January 2025. Abhi, will you be fine doing it for January 2020 to January 2025?
Okay, okay.
Yes. So 2016, I'm giving that just 1 month, then again 0 1. So make sure that you do this only, just change this, no, 1st of January to 31st of January, 1st of January to 31st of January, nothing else we are changing. NDVI is being calculated for these 2 months, that is January of 2013 and January of 2016. Files can do it for 2016 to 2020. Okay. Files, have you
Yeah,
opened it?
it's working. It's getting to be open like I
Okay,
think.
okay, yes. So besides this, we are not doing anything. What this particular code is doing is that it is looking for Wayanad administrative boundaries from a feature collection, that is from the catalog, which is over here. This is the link to it, and we are looking for Wayanad district of Kerala, and then we are just centering the map at 10 zoom level, and then we are defining the time range start year to end year, and then start year 2 to end year 2. That means we are trying to calculate what is the change between these two, and then we are looking for NDVI. We can also change this particular part of the code to use maybe any other one, but then for this particular hands-on we are doing it only for NDVI, and then we are getting NDVI for both the years, that is for January 2013 and January 2016. So we will have to change this. So NDVI 2013 to NDVI 2016. So that's all that I'm changing. And besides that, January 2023, no, so this will go into 2016. Okay, just make no, be a little careful here. So this is going to be 16, uh, and then this is going to be 13. So the later NDVI is getting deducted from the previous one. Sorry, the previous NDVI is getting deducted from the new one. That's all that is happening over here, and that gives us a change, and that change is then classified wherever the change NDVI change value is less than or equal to minus 0.2, then it is highly degraded. If it is less than 0.1, and then less than minus 0.1, and then more than minus 0.2, then it is degraded, and then above this that is, sorry, yes, above minus 0.1 and less than minus 0.03, then it is moderately degraded, and if it is 0.02 until 0.02, then it is stable or no change, and if it is above 0.2, 0.02, sorry, then it is improved or regenerating kind of forest until 1. Okay, so that's all that the classes it is making. Besides that, this is giving a color palette to it. To all the 5 classes, we are giving a color palette. Highly degraded means red, degraded means orange, moderately degraded means yellow, no change means light green, and improved means green. Okay, and then this is just to the minimum and maximum value that we are choosing for this, and then degradation class 1 is improved, 5 is unimproved, and so on and so forth. So yes, again this will be changed to 13. I think for 2013 I will have to change it to 14, because 2013 January data is not there. So this is going to be 16. 2014 this is going to be, because January 2013 Landsat 8 was not functional. Then So I'm changing it to 2014. Good to go with this. 14 and change. Okay. Then this is again 14, and this is missing somewhere. 2014. 2023 will be changed to 16. It's also 16. Yes, good to go. So once we have made these changes, the rest of the changes are essentially to just direct it to that particular NDVI. No, that's all that it is. Okay. So once this is done, we can save and we can run. Run this tool. NDVI is not defined. NDVI 2013 is not defined. Yeah, this is going to be 14. So it gives you that indication. Okay, fine. Somewhere it is. It seems to be off. So just save it again. Make the changes. Save it again, and then run. 2015 is not defined. Oh, okay. So this should be 2014. In fact, this should be 2016. So wherever I have missed, I am doing it now. 14 and 16. Yes. Hopefully now I'm done. So we will run this. It seems to be running. The moment you see that the layers are getting populated, that means it's been done. Okay. Is it going well with you? How is it going with you? Let me know if you're stuck somewhere. Okay. So this shows, this map will show us degradation map. I can put everything else off and just have a look at these. So here you see that red means highly degraded, orange means degraded. Then what's the next one? Yellow means yellow, yeah, yellow means moderately degraded. Then next is what? Yellow. Then light green means stable or no change, and if it is green, that means there is improvement in vegetation. As far as only this NDVI values are concerned. Okay. You can also have a look at this satellite view to see where all it is falling. You can check them on, check them off. Okay, this is NDVI change. This shows you NDVI change. You will see on my data, no, there is a thin line. It seems like this is separating this because essentially all these three are different satellite imageries. That is why it is happening. Which means we have to restrict our study area to just one satellite image. Okay, but here what is happening is that it is extending beyond one scene, so three different scenes are being used, because of which you see these lines here. Okay, which means I cannot compare this data with this, I cannot compare this data with this, I have to uh, look at them separately. You can change this to any other district or any other state, and you will be able to just do it for any other place as well. Just find out where exactly your admin boundary is, and then give it that admin name, administrative boundary name, select the district, and then we are good to go. All right, so this is what it shows. If you have done this, you can also go for downloading them, and when you download all these files, it will be saved into a specific folder. So let me run this NDVI 2014 Wayanad. Mm, it will be saved in a uh, folder or blank or root. So you can give a folder name. I am giving it as NDVI underscore Wayanad. underscore 14 underscore 16. Okay, so this is a drive folder that will be created within the drive of the same email id that you have used, and that is where it will be saved in this name. Okay, scale is 30, it is automatic. You can run this. Once you run this, you will see that it will come into submitted task and it will run. And the moment it has been saved there on our drive, a tick mark like this will be shown. Okay, so you can run all this and give the same drive folder. My God, I forgot the name of the drive folder. Okay, so it is NDVI Wayanad underscore 14 underscore 16. So I will just save this name so that I don't forget it. Control C and then run this. Okay, so that is also been submitted. Then again run this, give the same drive name and drive folder name, and then run this, and then run this, give the same drive folder name so that all of them come in the same drive folder. And from that drive folder you can then upload it, but first it has to be tick mark means it has been saved. What I will do is I will go for making slight changes into this code over here. That is, we won't do it for Wayanad because it seems that there are three different imageries that are being used. I will
No.
minimize this particular
Hello,
margin
excuse
boundary.
me, miss.
Yes.
Excuse me, miss. Sorry for the interruption. I
No,
wanted
no, that's very
to
nice.
get the codes starting from point number 4 in the green ink.
Uh, Starting
Uh,
from
point number 4 in the green ink. Get NDVI for 2 years. Just want to see the code. It's not working for
code.
me. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
14 and 16. Okay, and the fifth is NDVI
Yes.
2014. Yeah. And then if we scroll it down, do we
Yes.
need to change any other year down there? Add layers to map. Add layers to map just above 8.
About
Above 8.
about 8.
Yeah, add layers to map.
Yes.
Okay, so it will be 2014, then 2015. Yeah, all working. Then export image and
What
divide
we can also do,
24.
no? We can simply search for a control F if we press, and we can search
Okay,
for a specific year that we want to change, and we can replace
okay,
it. That will
okay.
also do.
And how we need to save this? Select all and save.
How?
How we need to save it? So
We
what
just
we
have to click save on save.
okay,
Because I have already saved it, no, so that it has
yeah,
been blurred off.
okay. It's not reflecting in my screen the save button.
Yes, it's
So
not
might be any
reflecting.
problem. Yeah, none of the buttons
Yeah,
are
so what
reflecting.
you know? Yes, okay. So what you do, just control A, so that
Okay,
everything gets selected, and
yeah,
control C, so that everything gets copied, and then just
okay,
refresh it. And if you feel that it has changed,
yeah,
then what you can do is you can just control V, and then go for clicking this, and then save as, and give
okay,
it a name.
okay.
What is important is we are going to create a portfolio using whatever this work that we do now, that is from 2013 to 2025, this degradation mapping that we have done. that we are doing using NDVI. We will make a portfolio out of it, and a small abstract will be prepared. It will be shared on ResearchGate. Make sure that you have an account on ResearchGate, and even if you don't, then no problem. What can be done is we can. I will invite you. Just give me your email ID so that I will invite you to ResearchGate, and then you will be able to make an account and accept that authorship. Otherwise, it will lie unaccepted, and then
Okay.
if
Yeah, I am
everything
having an
has
account.
research.
Yeah, having one.
Yes, okay, that's yes, okay. So I will share my details with you all, and then you can also share your details with me. I think Abhik is already there. I will share it with Paz and another participant along with us. They have not joined today, so we will see whether they are intending to do it because the video is recorded. Okay, so I will stop here.